heater! I dare you to hit it!
He'll be sorry.
Want the heater? I'll give it to you.
A swing and a drive to deep right.
Clear the deck. Cannonball coming.
Left field. It is out of here.
What up? What's good? Baseball Unstitched. We are back. We got a good episode for you guys today, for sure. No questions. We've got our first two-time guest on the pod. Jack Wilson is back to talk all things baseball with us. Extremely excited to share with you. And then we've got This Week in Baseball, because you guys got to know what's been going on. And let me tell you what, Flax, when we get to this time of the year, there is a ton going from a standpoint of one-year deals, re-signing. So we've got a lot to hit on today. But as always, Flax, how was your weekend?
Weekend was good. You and I got out. We played some baseball.
We did.
I got to face some live hitters on the mound. My right side of my body is hating me for it, but it was a good time. I enjoyed it. It was good to get out and do a little something. How was your weekend?
Good. I mean, listen, I Valentine's Day weekend was great. Baseball this weekend was great. It's hard to not have had a good weekend, especially when both days had beautiful weather across the board. So Denver is treating us well in the weather department for sure of late. Flax, let's get right into it, man. What happened this week in baseball?
Hammett bones wrecked a lot of people. Lindor, Holiday, Corbin Carroll, all three needing surgery, potentially missing the beginning part of the season. And then early signing, Tigers re-signing Justin Verlander. Man's headed back home.
I'm really excited for this. There's no reason not to be. Growing up watching him in a Tigers uniform. Look, he takes actually what is, as we've found out to be, less than the quote-unquote veteran minimum that has started to get set over the last 2 years of around $16 million. The hometown discount, though, worth it. We both know Verlander doesn't need the extra cash, so excited to see him back in a Tigers uniform.
Real quick, just for our Taylor Swift fans out there, a little bit of numerology for you. Justin Verlander started the first 13 years of his career in Detroit, signing for $13 million. A little bit of an Easter egg there in his career choices, if you will.
The Rockies, on the flip side, to no Taylor Swift comparison here, signed Jose Quintana to a one-year, $6 million deal.
I bet I could find one. No, Jose Quintana, 37-year-old lefty. You know what? I think this is one of those situations where DePodesta is just trying to add veteran competition to the mix. Get into spring training, force some of the younger guys to push their way into the rotation instead of just having open spots available to them. Quintana's the kind of guy that's going to probably give you anywhere from 135 to 165 innings. If he shows that he has worthwhile stuff to get outs, which generally something a little bit unique, a unique delivery from the left-handed side, plays in a lot of different places, could be it. So, I don't know. It's an interesting signing. Nothing too notable there to it. The Red Sox pulled off another trade, which seems to be all Craig Breslow knows how to do. Caleb Durbin, Andrew Monasterio, and Anthony Siegler headed to Boston from Milwaukee. The Brewers getting Kyle Harrison, left-handed pitcher, David Hamilton, an infielder, and Shane Drohan, a left-handed pitching prospect.
Yeah, look, on one side, I think Caleb Durbin's a great pickup for anybody who grabs him. Guy who can play multiple positions, shown he's going to compete, and there is a ton of pop from an overall perspective in that bat. Really does work the alleys well. The bigger question here seems to be the ever-expanding tree of the Rafi Devers trade, with Kyle Harrison also being moved. I believe the Red Sox now only have one prospect left across the board, or one piece left, that they got from the Giants in return for Devers. So a very ongoing situation. I don't know how else to put that, for us to keep our eyes on here. But all around, I understand the Red Sox moving to grab Durbin. The Brewers making this move is interesting, but it does align with what we've seen from them, which is if they believe they have surplus, they are going to go ahead and move a guy to get what they feel like they need and live and die by the surplus that comes up from their developmental system. Pirates sign Marcell Ozuna to a 1-year, $12 million deal. There's a mutual option for 2027 that would be worth $6.5 million and a $1.5 million buyout of the 2027 option if the Pirates and him cannot agree to play next year.
Yeah, and this is a brand new Pirates lineup. They added the likes of Brandon Lau, Ryan O'Hearn, and now Marcell Ozuna to it. Guys like Jake Mangum, also a part of that, Justinson Garcia. All of these guys now making up a different offensive landscape. I like the add of Marcell Ozuna. The only downside in my mind is since dealing with some injuries, a lot of his underlying metrics have continuously decreased. We're seeing bat speed that's been dropping consistently since 2023. The chase is getting better. He's walking a whole lot more, but the quality of contact is only getting worse. And quality of contact is really all we care about. You know, if you're a guy who swings and misses a lot, at least do some damage when you make contact. If you're a guy who makes contact all the time, at least make it worthwhile contact. So, you know, with Marcell Ozuna, maybe a little bit of fresh air in Pittsburgh instead of Atlanta will give him a resurgence at the DH role. He's going to go into it every single day knowing where he sits. So we'll see how that plays out. The Rays sign Nick Martinez, a 1-year, $13 million deal. It includes a mutual option for 2027. That is $20 million, $13 million based on a $9 million salary for 2026 and a $4 million buyout for 2027.
Yeah, I love this signing for the Rays from an overall perspective. Nick Martinez has been one of the better stories in baseball over the last 4 years. He's a guy who had a 4-year hiatus and played in the NPB at the time from his age 27 to age 30 season. Since he's come back, had 2 really good seasons with the Padres, had 2 excellent seasons at 33 and 34 with the Cincinnati Reds. He's going to a group that we consider a pitching factory. And what this tells me is at 35 years old, Nick Martinez is really excited to keep pitching for a long period of time. I think he looks at them as a group who can probably help him continue to grow, even at what we would consider an elevated age. Flax, I think this simply proves you can teach an old dog new tricks in the right scenarios. The White Sox sign another guy who did at one point in time go overseas to help revitalize his major league career in Eric Fetty, a 1-year, $1.5 million deal.
Well, I was going to say, this is just another great example of it. You know, it's funny. Eric Fetty had been with the White Sox in 2024, coming out of the KBO, with Chris Getz, had done well enough that he was able to trade him to the Dodgers, it was, in a 3-way deal. That's what it was, in a 3-way trade, which included Miguel Vargas coming to the White Sox. Chris Getz has now added Miguel Vargas as his third baseman and brought Fetty back to a comfortable situation on what is realistically a very low dollar amount. And if it amounts to nothing, it amounts to nothing. But this was an easy signing knowing who you're getting. We talk about this all the time. There is so much importance in known entities, not having wild cards in your roster construction. And when you look at this rotation, you add a guy like Anthony Kay out of the NPB, a lefty, very excited to see that. Shane Smith, Davis Martin, and Sean Burke get another year under their belt with an opportunity for some growth. And you add Eric Fetty as what is now your veteran arm, pushing the staff in a direction of this is how you be a big leaguer, this is how you handle yourself day to day, this is how you go through the roller coaster of 162 as you are now sophomores, juniors into this career that you're trying to make. And I think that in and of itself makes it a worthwhile choice. Listen, there's no bad 1-year deals, and this might end up being a very good one. It also might end up being a very useless one. That's the world of building a roster in the MLB. The Marlins signed Chris Paddock to a 1-year, $4 million deal.
Yeah, I've always been up and down on Chris Paddock. I think he's got solid stuff. This is a guy who's always been able to keep the ball in the zone, and he's leveraged good chase rates from an overall perspective. Somebody who falls at a top-tier level in extension. I think those three metrics are exactly why Bendix and team were extremely interested in adding Paddock, with the thought process that they can probably leverage three metrics that they find consistently important and build on what he does. Paddock has also had some issues staying healthy, which I think really provides his major inabilities to maybe go from a slightly above league average pitcher to a guy who really can stay in your rotation for a long period of time. So this is a good opportunity for Paddock. I think it's a really good landing spot for him, and I think the Marlins are extremely excited to have his arsenal on their staff potentially in 2026. The A's going out and grabbing Aaron Savali, a 1-year, $6.5 million deal. He does have an additional $1.5 million in incentives that are undisclosed.
Yeah, last year was a weird year for Aaron Savali. He wanted to start games, wasn't doing great starting games, so he got moved to the bullpen. Didn't like being there, so he got traded. In trading him, it didn't turn out to be a worthwhile venture. Got released, DFA'd, picked up. It ended up being a better uptick towards the end of the season. But the big thing for me is, as a reliever last year, threw 13 innings to a 2 ERA. He had a 28% K rate, had no walks, 149 batting average against. There's a world in which his stuff might just play better in short stints, especially as he gets older. I'm curious to see how he ends up getting used with the A's by the end of the year, and if he holds on to that notion of needing to be a starter, or if he kind of relinquishes that, seeing kind of the young arms that are going to have opportunities for the A's to take on some of those roles in starting spots. But it's a guy with 6 years of service time. He has the stuff to get guys out. Not at an elite level, but enough so that he can keep you in ball games. And that's really all you're asking when you're playing in an offensive ballpark with a really good offense like the A's have. So again, no bad one-year deals. Definitely some upside. Again, the $1.5 million in undisclosed incentives more than likely are probably tied to games started or innings pitched. If he doesn't turn out to be what they want him to be, he won't make that money. It is what it is. The Rockies signed Tomoyuki Sugano to a 1-year, $5.1 million deal.
Yeah, really echoing what you already said with Jose Quintana here, right? This is another arm they're bringing in to compete with the young guys at the end of the day. I think what makes both Sugano and Quintana very interesting is they're two guys that have large arsenals of pitches. I think another thing that is really interesting for DePodesta and team with both of these arms is the fact that they're going to get a lot of solid data against different pitches in altitude. I think this could really help them continue to try to figure out the formula to pitch well in Denver.
Are you saying these guys are just they're just data points?
I didn't say that.
I think to be honest, I think everything in DePodesta's mind is just a data point. And listen, I think when you're in the position he's in, you kind of has to be.
Listen, when it comes to pitching right now, I think that's kind of what it is. It's just part of learning. So don't mind the deal at all there. Evan Phillips re-signs with the Los Angeles Dodgers, a 1-year, $6.5 million deal.
Yeah, guy who throws hard and gets even softer contact, consistently stays away from the barrel, throws a ton of strikes, is highlighted by a really good sweeper. That's what he kind of lives and dies off of. Has a really good cutter, works as a bridge pitch. Fastball, sinker tie nicely together to get a lot of that soft contact when sequenced well. He won't be ready until July, coming off a Tommy John surgery. But I think for the Dodgers, that's kind of how they'd prefer to have it. Their focus is October. This is a really good bullpen arm that's probably going to help them come October, not having that many innings under his belt by that point in time, but is fairly fresh compared to other guys. We talked about this with some of the other signings they made. The biggest problem that the Dodgers came up against last year, and they worked through it because they had guys who stepped up and took the ball and did it, was having true relievers who could take that on night in and night out, whether it be from the left-hand side or the right-hand side. And people won't want to talk about the Dodgers having any sort of soft spot in their system or in their roster construction. But when you have guys like Sasaki, who you signed as a starter, closing out games and throwing 2 and 3 innings every other night out of the back of the bullpen, and you have a guy like Yamamoto taking the ball 2 days after making a start and throwing 95 pitches to close out a World Series game, there is an aspect of like, yeah, guys do what they have to do to win a World Series. But on the flip side, they shouldn't have to. You should have bullpen arms that can do that job for you. You didn't have to see Trey Savage pick the ball up 2 days after he made a start to try and close out a different game. So the Dodgers needed this help. They will need this help down the line. And I think Evan Phillips was the perfect grab because they knew what they were getting. They know his stuff and they like it. The Marlins signed John King to a 1-year, $1.5 million deal.
Yeah, this is a lesser-known name, but he's actually been one of the better lefties out of the bullpen for years at this point. He embodies the extreme ground baller. This is a really good left-handed sinker baller. He is consistently 95-plus percentile in ground ball rate across the league. So keeping the ball in the ballpark, extremely important for obvious reasons in this day and age of baseball. He also comes with a solid walk rate and solid chase rate, two of those other metrics we mentioned with Chris Paddock that we know Bendix and team are probably looking for in their arms. So solid pickup here. This is a guy with, again, a track record. So I like the move. Orioles signed Chris Bassett to a 1-year, $18.5 million deal. 3 of that is a signing bonus, and he has a $500,000 incentive if he makes 27-plus starts this year.
Which, by the way, I think he's done that every year for like the last 5 years. So, first of all, I think it's great that this landed on me. That was not intentional. For all the times that we do intentionally try and line these things up, this worked out nice. The Orioles missed out on Ranger Suarez. We talked about how they did put an offer up. He did not take it. Framber Valdez, similar situation. What do you do in those situations? You go get stability. You go get guys who you can add to your rotation who may not be highlight stuff, but can at least fall behind younger arms that you expect to excel or maybe take a growth step. If Chris Bassett can go throw 170 innings for you of 4 ERA baseball as your now number 3 or 4, slotting alongside Zach Eflin, who you're hoping to be healthy and get back to that number 3 level, the guys that now slot behind Kyle Bradish and Trevor Rogers are very stable, strong arms in your rotation. Then you have a mix of guys like Dean Kramer and Cade Povich and Tyler Wells, and I'm sure I'm missing one, that can funnel in as need be into a 4th and 5th slot. But the beauty here is you are adding depth. This is very different than what the Orioles had going into last year. They were very short on arms. They didn't add what was necessary. I like this move for them. And at $18.5 million, that's a more realistic veteran minimum, which is what Chris Bassett deserves after continuously putting up the numbers that he has been putting up. Jesus Sanchez for Joey Loper-Fito. Jesus Sanchez heading to Toronto. Joey Loper-Fito heading back to Houston, I believe.
I believe so. If not, he was a Ray. So
no, you know what it was? He was
right.
He was traded in the Yusei Kikuchi deal that sent him from Toronto to Houston at the deadline a few years back.
That sounds correct. Listen, I like this move for both sides. One, Houston gets a young, controllable, very, very athletic outfielder who has shown the propensity to swing the bat pretty well. So it'll be interesting to see how Houston continues to develop him. On the flip side, the Blue Jays get one of our favorite StatCast demons in Jesus Sanchez. This is a guy that we've talked about for a very long time. When he does hit the ball, it tends to be hit extremely hard. But Flax, I do want to flip part of this over to you because you did an entire thread on this guy, and you pointed out one big thing about Jesus Sanchez that really needs to be focused on to help find the additional production that we've all been looking for and waiting for from him.
Yeah, in baseball, the 1-1 count is what I would call, I like to call it the most advantageous hitters count. A lot of people would say 2-0. And the reason I think it's the most advantageous is it's because it's where you can flip the script as a hitter. If you win the 1-1 pitch, statistically speaking, you get exponentially better as a hitter. League average numbers on 1-1 counts, you're slashing 328, 335, 531 at an 886 OPS. That was in 2025. 605 home runs were hit in 1-1 counts last year. Jesus Sanchez in the last 3 years in 1-1 counts has slashed 206, 248, 340 with a 588 OPS and 13 home runs. Not good. And I think a large part of this is just approach. And when you hear David Popkins, the hitting coach for the Blue Jays, talk, he's so focused on the blending of a lot of what we think about with hitting. There is absolutely the side of trying to increase bat speed, but not doing it at the detriment to other things you already do well. If you're Jesus Sanchez, the focus is not on the mechanical. The focus is on the approach. There's a lot of guys that get into the box and know what they want to do and don't do it well. There's also a lot of guys who have no clue what they want to do, but still somehow succeed at some relative rate. Jesus Sanchez was that way for the majority of his career until he got to the big league level, where you have to have an approach, no matter how skilled you are. And I think that you'll see Jesus Sanchez be a really good bat for them and probably get more at bats than people realize, solely because once he starts to reshift his approach at the plate and focus on taking advantage of the counts that he can, he's going to be more successful. He's going to make better swing decisions. You'll see a chase rate that drops. You'll see a hard hit rate that increases, and you'll see better results on those hard hit numbers. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah, this also puts Toronto in a spot where they have a surplus now of outfielders at the major league level who have a track record of being able to produce at the highest level in baseball. I think Joey Loperfido had a lot of general upside. However, it's undeveloped or not fully developed upside or fully polished upside. So I like the move for them. Don't be surprised if Toronto down the stretch needs an arm, whatever it might be. Look for them to move somebody out of that outfield conglomerate, because those guys will be valuable as we get down the stretch. Zach Gallen re-signs with the Diamondbacks for $22.025 million. That was the qualifying offer amount. $14 million of this will be deferred, making the AAV $18.75 million.
Yeah, he had a good back half of the year last year, and I kind of just think it got to a point where his multi-year deals were probably for only 2 or 3 years. It still probably included opt-outs or mutual options, which made this year a prove-it deal anyways. Why pick up your life and move? Why move out of the facilities and the people that you already know, communicate well with, are comfortable with, when you can make a good amount of money for a singular year and set yourself up for a 4 or 5 year deal coming out of the CBA in 2027 and beyond? I also think that if you're on your way back up to the mountain and you're still working through the progression of figuring out what works and what doesn't, as a pitcher who has gone through the roller coaster he has the last 3 or 4 years, why would you try and do that somewhere else? Why would you flip over to the other side of the mountain and climb up a facing that you have never seen before? Keep working up the direction that you know already exists, you've planned for, you are working with somebody alongside you to get there. So it was a smart move for him, in my opinion. Probably the least shocking move of the entire offseason, Kike Hernandez re-signs with the Dodgers, per himself on Instagram.
Yeah. Right-handed Barry Bonds in the playoffs re-signs with the Dodgers. That's where I'm going to leave it, because Kike always shows up, it seems, in the big moment. Guy plays every single position on the field, including pitcher. So I think the Dodgers are really happy to have their super utility man back on the roster. In other Dodgers news, Flax, Max Muncy signs a 2-year extension with the Dodgers. I'm going to let you try to run through this as fast as you can, because this is a convoluted 2-year extension.
Well, we'll start with this. It is, at a minimum, a $20 million year over those 2 years. First year's $10 million paid out. Next year is technically a $7 million deal. And then the next year after that is a club option for another $10 million. I only say technically for year 2 because it is also inclusive of a $3 million buyout. So if they don't pick up his contract for 2028, it turns year 2 basically into a full $10 million, ergo your $20 million. Where it gets confusing is his incentives. So he has a hitting incentive based on number of plate appearances, which makes sense. Max Muncy has dealt with some injury. If they get a full season out of him, which ends up being somewhere around 502, which is a qualified player, to 650 plate appearances, he will make an extra $15,000 per plate appearance from his 401st to his 550th. That's 150 plate appearances, which is an extra $2.3 million, I think is the number that it comes out to. If he does that, it also adds on escalators for the 2027 and the 2028 years. Those escalators work a little differently. It's $20,000 for the first 100 plate appearances, and then it's $35,000 for the next 50 within that same range of 401 to 550, and then that same structure for 2028. So all in total, he basically sets himself up for adding, an extra $2.4 million to year one, and then another like $2.75 to $3 million in year two and potentially year three if he does that in year one. It's fascinating. I think it's a good way to get him to just kind of buy in now and know that they're cognizant of his injury history, but also not holding it against him and giving him an opportunity to make what he's worth if he stays healthy.
Yeah, hard not to like the deal for the Dodgers at the end of the day, right? And
yeah,
I think Max Muncy is probably just simply willing to bet on himself, which kudos to him because we know all about that.
I mean, I would too if I were him.
100%.
AJ Preller signed an extension with the Padres to maintain status as their GM. Is he their GM or their POBO?
I believe he's their POBO now, but we can check.
No, actually, I think you're right. And it set off a string of deals that he worked out over the next day and a half. I will let you run through those deals if you would like.
Yeah.
And because there's not much more to say about AJ Preller's extension other than the fact that he's one of the more loved from the players, fans, team standpoint for what he does. I think I said on Twitter that a couple Dodgers fans just fell to their knees knowing that the only thing holding them back for the next 5 to 10 years is staying put where he is.
Yeah, look, first off, Padres fans get to have two things that are consistent. One, you will always have a pipeline of prospects. Two, they will always get moved before they get there 90% of the time. And that's not a negative thing because Preller does one thing all the time. He never sits down. He is always on the phone, and he's always trying to make the next move to make that team better. Kudos to him and what he's done. You don't have to agree with every move he's made, but guess what? I'll be the first one to say it. At least he's making these moves. And a lot of people sit around and complain all the time about not seeing them. So I just, Preller deserves his flowers at the end of the day. Excited to see him with the Padres long term. 3 different moves. Germain Marquez signing a 1-year deal with a mutual option for 2027. Nick Castellanos, a 1-year deal. The Padres will get to pay him major league minimums because the Phillies will be paying him all year long. I believe it's about $20 million. The Padres also, in their third and final signing here, that was a major league deal, brought in Griffin Canning on a 1-year deal. So I like what he's doing over there. You know that as well as I do. I think the roster shifts a lot. It's my only one knock on Preller at the end of the day is sometimes I think the lack of consistency keeps maybe having an extremely cohesive group. At the same time, he's had a lot of ownership financial waters to navigate, and those tend to create more roster fluctuation. So you got to make the best out of it, and I think he does.
Well, and I think on top of that, depending on the length of his extension, he may end up seeing more ownership turnover here in the next couple of years, which could benefit him and his ability to kind of maybe even hold on to some prospects for the next couple of years with the intent to say, hey,
hold on to the prospects that have panned out long term, right?
Right.
It's not like we've seen a ton of those extensions for them either.
No, that's true. I think there's going to be a bigger conversation when it comes to AJ Preller as the season gets going, as we start to see how some of these younger guys start playing in the minor leagues, and also maybe even checking in on some of the guys that he's passed along to other places and seeing kind of how maybe they would have benefited from that and replacing some of the guys they do have large contracts against right now.
I agree. Well, look, that's this week in baseball, and that lets us move to the most fun section of this week's podcast, and that is us having former MLB All-Star Jack Wilson back on the podcast. We talked about a lot of things. Jack is a personality and a character, and we love having him on, so enjoy our conversation with Jack Wilson. All right, we got him back. He liked us enough to come on for a second time. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Wilson back on Baseball Unstitched. Jack, thank you so much for coming to hang out with us again.
Oh, anytime, guys. You know I loved it last time, so I'm pumped to rock the sequel.
Yeah, hey, our goal is that this time around we're not going to ask you a pre-Titanic question to end the pod. We figured that you had earned the right to something a little bit more in the now,
awesome.
If that's good with you.
I like it.
Modern era baseball.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to start with a fun one because baseball is a game of unknowns, and injuries factor into the unknowns. Everybody's favorite discussion point right now is the hamate bone. We have unfortunately seen a lot of guys already to start this year go down with the hamate bone injury. Corbin Carroll, I believe, is the biggest one on that list that people are aware of. Have you ever broken your hamate bone, and what is that like if you did?
No, I hadn't obviously seen it happen a lot. A lot of it comes from like curling the knob, and that knob is just sitting in that same spot, and it just rubs and rubs and rubs, and over time, and that, they say it sucks because the hamate bone actually doesn't have any functionality in the hand. It absolutely does nothing. It's just like a little bone that's a little hook, and when it breaks, it's just very painful. And it's just a sucky surgery because it's real simple. They go in, they cut it, they pull it out, but then because it's a surgery, you have swelling, and it just takes a long time to come back, and then you got to revamp. You got to take, you got to go through the minor. Like it just takes time just to get the swelling down, to get the strength back in your fingers. So it's just irritating for a lot of guys because it's not even a bone that has any meaning. It's just there, So it's kind of a bummer. And obviously, you saw Jackson Holiday have it as well. I don't know who the third guy was, but just you hate to see that happen at this point. Where they're going to miss opening day, and they're obviously very, very talented young players that are big for their teams, looking for big years. So especially Corbin. Corbin's a top 6-7 guy. Like what he can do is pretty remarkable. So I'm bummed. I'm bummed for him for sure.
I always find it so fascinating because obviously with the way guys hold the bat, everyone does it differently. I feel like at some point I would want to go to whoever the manufacturer is that I get a bat from and say, hey, this is how I hold the bat.
Right.
It's going to start hurting me right here in my hand. Can we start working on some sort of knob? I know some guys move towards like an axe handle, and other guys, like Ryan Howard is one. I don't know why I know this, but I know Ryan Howard used to work with Marucci, and he had a handle on his bat that was unlike anything else. There was no stopping point to it. It just tapered.
Yeah,
like it tapered out at the end. It was just a flat cut
off
at the bottom.
Craig Biggio, same way. Had no knob at the end. It just tapered off, and then they just kind of like just cut it off before the knob.
I gotta imagine that's got to feel better in the hand, right?
Well, it's nice to have something to pull down on. Curling it with your pinky or curling it with your two fingers. I think that's where you get a lot of it. Sometimes it's just holding the bat regular, but having that thing to pull down sometimes feels good.
True.
I find a lot of the best hitters choke up, so it makes the knob completely non-existent anyways. So
yep.
I always choked up with 2 strikes, and I always felt better there for some reason, but I was not a smart individual to just do it all the time because that would make too much sense. But that pull down, that's what that knob is for, to kind of pull the swing, and then it got really popular in the 80s and the 90s to curl that thing and get a little more whip to it, a little more in the hand. So guys I think Julio Franco had only had 2 or 3 fingers underneath the knob, and how he held it. So it was really strange, but it's such a feel. Wow. Like you don't want to you grab a bat, you hit it a certain way your whole life. Like it's hard to come off of that, and so you would hope that maybe there's something that they can come up with. Maybe it's a soft knob or something like that, but. It's just one of those things we haven't heard a lot. I mean, it's big news now because baseball's just starting and it's big news. But I mean, it happens every year to a lot of guys, and it's just, it happened last year for the A's. It was big. It was Geloff. Zach Geloff had that happen, and so that was big at the time. Zach was coming off a down year, was hoping to come back and be the starting second baseman. The future showed what he was 2 years ago, and he was just really, really good on the offensive side. and so that was a bummer for him to go that, because then when he came back, the young guys were playing so well, he really didn't have a spot, so it was tough.
Yeah.
Washington Gallup's a good dude.
And we knew you're a big fan of him. So as we transition into the conversation of the A's, there's been a lot going on for the entire A's franchise, and that obviously does also include your son, who, once again, congratulations, did just sign a awesome extension, 7 years, $70 million with the club. Not just only talking about Jacob, but the young core that is being built with your son included in Sacramento and soon to be Vegas. Is as elite as they come. And I think one of the things that's really important that we talked about is it's not just about what they're doing on the field, it's also about that core off the field as well, and the way they operate and work together.
Yeah. No, those guys are super tight. I mean, they were all at Soderstrom's wedding in November. They were all at Jacob's wedding in December.
That's cool.
And when you start traveling in your off season, when you're finally done with traveling, and you're traveling to go see, people's weddings and stuff, that's when you have these really tight relationships with your teammates, and it's not very common. It just really isn't. And when you find those teams, when you watch those teams that have that, where everybody enjoys each other, everybody likes each other, and especially when you're talking about a young core, and Rooker came out with his family to the wedding, to Jacob's wedding in December, and he was at Soderstrom, and that's a guy that you feel like he's the captain of the squad. He's the guy that's supposed to lead these guys into the next stage of their career. And that's got to be fun for them. I think that had a lot to do with those guys signing, knowing that they could play together. I know Soderstrom was on the phone with Jacob quite a bit, saying, "Hey, like, where you at? Like, let's get it done. Let's play together." It's just,
that's cool.
It's young baseball players going through the same periods of life together, getting married together, having little kids together, and it's just like, it's just fun to watch, because I think what you're saying, like, these guys are going to get to this core is going to get to play together for such a long period of time, and then you add pieces to it here and there, and it's going to be fun to watch. I just love their relationships off the field and what that does to their relationship on the field. Like that takes them to a different level than just teams that have good talent, when you have good talent that also spend a lot of time together outside of the field.
I think the move to Vegas is a fun part of it for me, and obviously because it's Vegas, but it's an opportunity to kind of make a name for the team in the community. Yeah. And baseball is so unique in this way that, it's an every night event. Yeah. Hockey is not. Football once a week, only a certain period of the year. Baseball lasts forever. Yeah. And in a place like Vegas where people are coming and going, you need a local fan base that truly loves the team, and having a core of players that are going to be there for a long time and kind of set that in motion right out of the gate, I think is so fun to know that they're all going to get to be a part of that, and that train is already starting.
And it's brilliant strategy too, because you're locking all these guys up now. Well, their contracts don't really get expensive for the next couple of years, and guess what? You're going to be in a brand new stadium that everybody's going to want to see, in one of the best touring spots on the planet. There's going to be constantly people come in. So the second you're going from a Sacramento place that holds 15,000 to a brand new state-of-the-art stadium with an unbelievable backdrop, by the way, like, you're going to be making so much money, and these guys are all going to be just starting to get into their bigger contract years as far as money is concerned. So smart, because right now, I mean, those contracts, you look at the year by year, like the next 2 years in Sacramento, they're not very expensive. They're all backloaded like every other contract. So by the time they get to Vegas, they're going to be making a lot of money, and they're going to have a new brand. I'm hoping they go to Vegas Gold. I think that would be absolutely sick if they kept the green, but then took away the yellow and went more the Vegas Knights yellow. That would be gross with a little sparkle on it. Remember they used to did they do that with the All-Star jerseys or something a couple years ago?
It was the World Series winner.
Yeah,
the World Series winner would do it to start their year. Yeah,
a little sparkle on it, a little Vegas pizzazz would be awesome. So we walked the stadium. When Jacob when he signed a couple weeks ago in Vegas, we went on the stadium, went to the construction site, and it's just going to be breathtaking the way that thing is going to turn out, and it's going to be fun to watch this core and this team move into that city, and I think they're going to embrace them. It's going to be really exciting, and it's on the strip. On the strip is crazy.
It's across the street from the MGM Grand, right? It's just right there on the other corner. It's crazy. That's insane.
You know, credit where credit's due too. I think the other thing that we have to talk about is the fact that the front office has also locked this core up, these kids up. Kids, yeah, I'm going to age myself. That's lock these young players up, and they should be moving in and through a competitive window the moment they step into Vegas.
For sure.
The ability to automatically be a contender is going to be huge, not only for Vegas, not only for the franchise, but for the players as well. The excitement around that group is going to help, I think, propel them to more heights, which at the end of the day is literally good for everybody involved.
Right.
I think Vegas provides so much of an opportunity at this point. We know the background and history of how we're moving here. We understand all of it, but at the end of the day, it's happening. So I think it's one of those things where it's turning around and embracing the situation at this point.
Yeah.
So excited to see what they do. I mean, you don't have to tell us, but do you have an idea of where we're rebranding? Like in your head, do you know?
No, I don't. I still think it's going to be the A's. I remember rebrand more just like, okay, the Las Vegas A's or the Los Angeles Athletics. I think they're going to get that. I think they're just – I read something that's just too far off. Like you got to get it when you get closer, we'll give it to you. But right now it's too bland, and no one – they said that you're not recognized in Vegas as the Athletics because you're not here. You're not here for 2 more years. So I think that's all going to play itself out. I mean, Vegas is not going to – they're going to be so excited that they have that stadium and that team and the youth that's coming in. And, I mean, we still have a guy named Nick Kurtz who's pretty good.
Right.
And honestly,
he's okay.
The 2 guys I think you guys really kind of keep an eye out for is Gage Jump and Arnold, our first-round pick, our first-round pick. Yes.
Jamie Arnold.
Yeah, Jamie Arnold, I think they both will make tributes this year, contribute this season for sure. I think they're both very close on being really high quality, top of the line left-handed pitchers. I think that's what I'm excited about the most, watching this core group and watching these 2 guys come pitch.
Well, and I think that was everybody's reaction. You get a 4th guy in Jacob to sign an extension as a hitter, and everybody's like, okay, great, but you have to pitch. And it's like, well, listen, everybody knows where they are, where the location is. They get how hard it is to do. It's hard to convince free agents to come and sign. It just is. Sure. And that's kind of the knock you're taking for the next couple of years. Yeah. But you have some young pitchers, which you get the choice to take, and you have, a couple of guys in Gunnar Hoagland and JT Ginn that are very, very good arms. And they're going to get their chance.
JT Ginn being a heavy sinker guy helps his case too.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I think, Lopez is also very good, sidewinding lefty, like kind of Gage Arnold. All they're very, very different looks. And like you said, I think that's true, and that's why I think it's really cool because the way that the draft is aligned this year, it looks like another college arm, from the slot that they have, which should be another. I mean, why would you you don't really need a position guy, so if you go out and get another maybe pretty close to college ready arm, then you could. I mean, and that's the thing we got to look at, right? We talk about a young core, we talk about this organization locking guys up, but let's not take away the fact that they are just hitting on their draft like crazy.
Yes,
all these guys except for Rooker are homegrown. You made a trade and you got a Rooker for nothing. You got a Langoliers for nothing. What they've done on the front office side with building this team and drafting the guys they drafted. Remember, Jacob wasn't supposed to be this isn't a slam dunk pick. He's different. Yeah. He's different than everybody else, but they're like, we still like him. Let's take him.
He wasn't coming from the competitive landscape that everybody else was coming from.
Right.
He wasn't doing it out of the gate when he got to that level. Yeah,
absolutely. But they've shown too, their team that they've built homegrown guys. Soderstrom drafted, Denzel Clark drafted, Butler drafted, Jacob Kurtz drafted, Langoliers traded for, Rooker traded, they're doing such a good job. I think it gets overlooked by the fact that they're putting together a really good major league team from the decisions that they've made. Not like it's just been fun to watch.
I think you're right.
Have you gotten to see Devin Taylor take ABs yet?
So Devin Taylor, the left-handed hitter from Indiana?
Oh, yeah.
I threw him live BP today. So he is one of our guys with PSI.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Oh, yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah. Got him a couple times with a changeup today, though. I'll be honest. but he'll be fine. But yeah,
He's
he's
a left-handed hitter. It comes with
what
the territory. There's no way
what a-
around that.
he is a great kid. I love him.
That's
I just
awesome.
met him because this is our first year with our agency. What a great kid. He's a very good athlete too. He takes ground balls at shortstop with us. Like he's awesome. And I think when that ball comes off his bat, it's a different sound. And I'm throwing to CJ Anderson, I'm throwing to Blaze Anderson, and those are big humans with big muscles and big ball. You know, it's a different sound, and he's right there. I mean, very short swing, and just a competitor. I love every bit of him. I've only worked with him for 2 or 3 weeks, but man, he's awesome. Another guy. And you got Colby Thomas too, like another dude. Like they got dudes on dudes, man. So even if they wanted to make some trades and get some younger arms or get some minor league arms, because I think there's guys that you can go get, because I think they have great position players that they just don't have any room for. Like they have no.
We talk about this all the time, like drafting and roster construction. And like my personal take, and this is just how I feel about the draft room, is I don't like taking pitchers high. I just don't, because there's so many arms that exist in professional baseball that I'd rather go get a bat that I feel like is a little more stable. I can look around the league and go trade for an arm, buy an arm whenever I want. I just have to put up the best price, and I have to know that I have a stable of bats or even potentially lesser arms that people who like to develop arms will want, and I'll go get those guys.
Right.
But I will say some of the arms that the A's are taking right now are as close to MLB ready as it gets. They're very polished. They're very much pitchers. They're not just throwers. And I think that's a really important distinction, because I'm the last person who would take a high school arm. But
no doubt.
A college arm playing against good competitive baseball and shows that from one start to the next, he's not just shoving fastballs down guys' throats and overpowering them.
Right.
That's a relatively good arm to take. I don't necessarily have to do a lot of development until things start to wane, and that's a kind of a happy medium.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of it too. Agents getting a lot more involved in the amateur game when they're in high school and when they're in. So if they're a pitcher, if they have a guy, they're starting to take them off of these different types of events that they have to go to. So their arm and wear and tear is a lot less. But I mean, I think the A's are there's a small market team, so they're doing a really good job with understanding, like, okay, we're not going to be able to draw like the free agents like you're talking about. We have to go out and get draft pitchers that fit our mold, that can get up here quickly. And I think that's what they've been doing over the last 3 or 4 years. Like, let's get a gauge jump that was UCLA and then I think LSU, right? And then let's get a Jamie Arnold one. I think there's another one coming this year, because just the way that it looks like the draft is working out. But they're staying away from high school arms for the most part, I think. It's just, that's what they know they have to do for them. And, I've enjoyed watching them build this thing. I think it's just been a lot of fun.
It's a good model.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we've seen, and you've gotten to watch how different teams build their rosters, is I think one of the things that is really important is understanding as an organization what you do well and what you are good at developing.
Right.
Right? That's the big piece when you look at the Orioles, when you look at the Astros, Elias and Dana Brown, both coming from the same schools of thought. They know and understand how to develop competitive bats on a regular basis. So let's do what we do best to get ourselves in a surplus of those guys, and then we'll move to get what somebody else is good at developing, because we know they do it at a higher rate than us.
Right.
Tampa Bay, Cleveland, places that we know are pitching factories. And I think you're in a really good spot here with this discussion of, like, the A's have that right now in potential surplus of bats.
Right.
And they're good bats. So being able to work with those groups to bring in what you need to continue to be competitive. I want to get to something else, and we talked about college baseball a little bit earlier. So before we do, your expectations of the 2026 Athletics.
I think Sodi hits 30 homers and left. I think Denzel Clark becomes the best defensive center fielder in baseball, and I think takes a step forward with his offense. Butler is 25-25 club. Muncy, I think, locks down. He's going to hit 20 homers. I think he locks down third base. Jacob's going to take a step more on the offensive side. He's got 15 to 18 homers, and second time around the league's going to see you're just going to know more. He's going to do better, I think, than the 311.
Yeah.
McNeil is a huge add. He's going to be the infield rooker, I guess we could say, and he's going to have a rejuvenation year because he's going from the Mets, and now he gets to be a bright spot with a young team. So I think he takes a leadership role, and he's going to really enjoy himself and have a great bounce-back year. Nick Kurtz is going to hit 50. So you saw it here. He's hitting 50 homers. So we're going to be able to replay this at the end of the year when he hits 50 and be like, whoa, he was on Baseball Unstitched, and he just literally told me we're going to hit 50 homers. So he's hitting 50, and then Langers has another 30-homer season at the Dish. So that's the A's if you want to know what 2026 is going to be like. And then, like I said, I think Gage Jump and Arnold play a part. I like the competition that they'll have for those last few rotation spots. I think they can make a run. Obviously, if you take out, they say, take out the 20 games where we lost 20 games. Like, you can't take it out, but it was there. Like, it happened. But it's, if those two guys do come up, that means two starters now get to move to the bullpen and make the bullpen stronger. So I think when those guys come up, it's an impact because it's a domino effect because now you're taking a really good starter and make him maybe your long guy. Now your long guy is more of a setup guy, and it just makes you a stronger bullpen. So I think it's a team that everyone's excited about, and I think they take the next step to where they're going, which is the World Series in 2028, which is going to be awesome. So
heck yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at.
I love it.
I hope all that works out.
2020.
All that works out.
You said 2028. I'm glad you said 2028 because my brother's big on the Orioles winning it in 2027, and I keep telling him that I'm hoping we have a season in 2027. Right. But that's good that we're not crossing paths there. That's good.
Well, it's because the Orioles beat the A's in the ALC in the American League Championship to get there, right. And then it's like the A's were so close, and now they're like, oh, we're going back. And then they come back and win. You know how you lose the first one, but then you come back and win the next one because you've been there, done that? So that'll work too. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I will have two of the happiest campers ever on this podcast if all of this comes true. So I really, really need this.
Yes.
Really need this. And the Washington Nationals will win the 2048 World Series. And that is where we will move to the next topic. Jack, we had an opportunity a little bit before. I know you're a big college baseball guy. Flax is a big college baseball guy.
Yes.
The season is about to be here. We know that guys like Rock Chalowski and Drew Burris are ready to start putting on a show.
Yes.
Give us some guys that you want to put on people's radar for the 2026 college baseball season.
All right. Number 1, Gavin Grahovic, Texas A&M. On our 18U national team, he won gold. He missed almost the entire season. I think he started out, he started the first 3 or 4 games. He was a super freshman. I think he had over 20 home runs his freshman year. Just an absolute animal, a beast. He's a first-round talent. He missed all of last year. He's coming back this year, and it's going to be awesome. He's my obvious pick for me. Like, this guy's going to do what he does. Obviously Rock is Rock. Rock Chalowski is the real deal. He's from Arizona. He's from Hamilton High School, so I saw him play in high school. He's the real deal. I'm actually really happy he went to college rather than taking the draft because he's done really well. That whole team's a lot of fun to watch. That UCLA infield might be the best infield in baseball.
Yeah.
Sleeper pick. R.J. Hamilton out of Duke. Went to Vanderbilt out of a high school. He has got Enrique Bradfield type speed. So I think he leads the nation in stolen bases. So he found a home in Duke after the transfer portal, and I've always loved him. He was on our national team as well. I've always loved him as a person and what he can bring, and I think if he's hitting leadoff every day for Duke, which I think he's going to do, there might be 50, 60 bags in that. So I really, really like that a lot. I like him.
I have a feeling that program is going to be good. I have a feeling that program is going to be very good this coming year, even losing Pollard. I think who they got. Very, very, very good team.
Absolutely. I really like Oklahoma State. I've had a couple of their guys on my team in summer ball. They're really good. They're really strong. They're very athletic. There's a freshman to watch named Danny Wallace, prospect out of high school, got hurt his senior year. He's going to start probably as like the 4th or 5th outfielder in the beginning, but I had him this summer with a wood bat. Remind me a lot of a very, very young Mike Trout. Runs like the wind. All I just say is, the first home run, he came to us late because he was hurt in high school. He came to us late, and he hit a 410-foot homer with a wood bat, opposite field, right center, from the right side, while also then hitting a triple and getting to third base in sub 14 seconds. And so you just don't see that very often. There's a combination of speed and power. And I think he's it's Oklahoma State, and they're going to be stacked everywhere with baseball players. So he's kind of outside looking in right now, but definitely could be a guy to make an impact if he gets a little bit more opportunity in midweek, stuff like that. Because he's a phenomenal player. I like him a lot. So he's like super sleeper, but a guy that I really like.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm deep diving for you guys.
Well, you know what's crazy though is I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong. I feel like it wasn't until we got towards the end of the season that even a guy like Rock got the notoriety he deserved for the season he put up. And I think part of that is not being in the SEC. Another part of that is just some of the guys that were higher on the list because of the draft. The conversation's always going to be about the guys who are, draft eligible.
For sure.
But talking about a guy who won Big Ten Player of the Year as a sophomore, shortstop.
Well, we also don't pay attention to UCLA offensive players. We don't pay attention to UCLA offensive players because it's always been a pitch factory.
I was going to say California offensive players.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. But honestly, for UCLA forever, it's been the Trevor Bauers. It's been it's been the pitch factory. And they've had really good players, but it's also, too, when you're on the West Coast, East Coast, viewers who watch games don't really stay up to watch West Coast baseball. And honestly, they don't get a lot of fans at UCLA, unfortunately. Because there's just too many teams to choose from. Just go pick USC, UCLA, Cal State Northridge, Fullerton. There's so many you can go see. Yeah, exactly. So, but he's the real deal. He's gonna be an easy 1-1. He's pretty darn good.
We're on the same page with you there. I think it would take something wild for that not to be the case. I think the skill set that Rock Chalowski holds is second to none at the current moment for draft eligible players this year. You talk about West Coast baseball here and how that really changes the dynamic in college baseball. One of our good friends, Keith Zuniga, who's been on the podcast as well, the pitching coach at Hawaii Baseball, it's one of the things that we talk about with him. The West Coast baseball guys, though it's good baseball, do not always get the same level of notoriety simply due to where half the country is sleeping.
No doubt. Well, hey, I'll give you another one, even more of a deep dive.
Please.
We actually have really big ballparks. The places that are played in the West Coast are not home run friendly places. As soon as you get to Texas, put the ball in the air and it's gone. I'm sorry, it is launch pad city.
Yeah.
When we were in the WAC, we would go to Texas with any team in Texas, and you go over. There are stadiums built for home runs. Period. Every stadium that we played at from Texas over was all right. I know we're at GCU, we're gonna get on top of the ball, but as soon as we go here, let's dip and drive because all we have to do is get it in the air because it's blowing out and it's short. So anytime we played it at a Texas place, just get the ball in the air, boys. It's gone. Tarleton State, but if you look at all the home runs, if you look at the home run leaders in college baseball, you're going to look at the top 20, 30, 40. They're all going to be East Coast teams.
Oh yeah,
straight up.
People will tell you that it's because of the SEC. But if you look at that list, there are a lot of guys that are Big Ten. There's a lot of guys that are, a lot of other conferences. They're just putting the ball out East Coast. But I will also say this. I think that because of the state of California and the amount of kids that you have coming out of those states that can play baseball all year round because of good weather and also don't love to leave home,
right,
where the majority of baseball is played, which is far away from home, you end up getting such a dispersion of talent across such a concentrated area that nobody stands out as a dominant force. Right. 1 year UCSB will go and compete with anybody, and the next year USC will be good, the next year UCLA, and it always rotates. And then you have the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of the same, but a more concentrated talent with 2 or 3 teams. None of those guys leave, except now they're leaving as sophomores and juniors to go play in the SEC because they can. But Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But it is crazy how not only is the landscape of where guys are going changing a lot, but the way that dispersion on the West Coast happens and where those guys end up playing,
Yeah.
it just breeds a more spread out or a thinned out talent base across a lot of different teams.
No doubt. I'm with you.
This is fun. I get to learn about all this stuff because
Yeah.
you know at Kent State Club baseball we weren't traveling to Texas, guys.
Yeah.
We just weren't.
Well, no, I was gonna say. So even in Division III baseball, my junior year, every year we went to Florida, but my junior year we got on a bus and drove down to Texas. We always drove 24 hours, but we get down to Texas, and the first place we play, we're taking BP, and everybody's just like, "Whoa!" Like the ball's jumping here. I mean, as a switch hitter, no power right-handed, I was putting balls out in BP backside right-handed, and I was like, oh. So that whole week was, get the ball in the air, as much as we can, and we never hit home runs like we hit in that week. It was crazy.
It's gonna help. It literally helped UCLA's position players when they went to the Big 12 and they got out of the Pac-12 because it's like, dude, UCLA is a graveyard. That's why the pitchers always have unbelievable numbers at UCLA. They're like, you got to get it out of there. It's huge. And as soon as the sun goes down, that fog comes in, it goes absolutely nowhere. So it's like when they go to the Big Ten, they can travel across the country and go play some of these places. They're going to put up numbers that they really had never had done before since they changed the bats. It's been that long before the bats, before they monitored and did the BB Corps, before even the Beezers. Oh my gosh! Like Troy Glass was in like 50 homers.
I feel like even those West Coast teams at the time, they were so defense heavy. Like they still were pitching. I mean, I remember like Long Beach State, even though they had some really good hitters, they were very pitching defense heavy. You had all these other teams, they'd come to the College World Series and, their shortstop would have 30 errors, but he'd have, 30 bombs. Yeah. Everybody was like, who cares? He's going to give up one run. He's going to get us 3. And the West Coast teams would be like, yeah, we're going to beat you 2-0.
Yeah. UCLA, when they
won
the
RBI singles.
Series, they set the record for the least amount of runs scored in an entire World Series. Yeah. But because they know that their fields are big and it doesn't carry, they put emphasis on throwing strikes and catching the ball. We have to, because that's how we're going to win. Because other teams, it's a benefit to them. If you're an East Coast team and you come and play at UCLA, the benefit is for UCLA because they're going to hit balls and they're going to pimp them, and that thing's going to get caught at the track. And they're going to be like, yeah, welcome to UCLA. This is what we do. We just catch the ball in. Yeah. But they got some great players over there. They're going to be a fun team to watch.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people have them as the number 1 team of the country right now.
Mm-hmm.
Totally understand why. As it pertains to teams from an overall perspective, anybody that you expect to make a little bit deeper of a run than people are putting on their radar right now?
It's so hard early just because it's all about names. We've had a couple big arms go down in fall, which changes a big landscape. I know Oklahoma State had a huge arm go down. I think one got released today. Was it UCLA's ace went down? Or no, U of A's, University of Arizona's ace went down in an inter-squad last week. So it's just like so hard to tell. The bottom line is I always watch Vanderbilt because of what Tim Corbin does. He's the best. He's our Bill Belichick. He's the best. He's the best coach in college baseball. Him and Jay Johnson. So LSU and Vanderbilt are always just going to be fun to watch because they're leaders. They're great talent, but what they expect and what they do for their players, how they manage their young men ball clubs is what makes them so consistent. So I just like those guys. I think there's always going to be these Cinderella, stories. Coastal Carolina is always good now. It's fun to watch those teams too. But like some of these mid majors have been pretty consistent to get to these spots. What was the Cinderella team last year that made it to the World Series? You guys remember?
Morehead? No.
Oh, it was Murray State.
Murray State. There it is. I knew they beat Duke.
Yeah, it's just amazing. You know what? Notre Dame's always good. It's just cool to see how it all plays out.
I agree.
I will say this, and this is just my take on how all that stuff breaks out anyways. I think in the next year or so, we're going to start seeing it become very numbers-based. Like, no more committees, no more athletic directors getting their way. Because a lot of what happens at the end of the year is you have athletic directors and you have conference directors that want a team to host.
Right.
And it's good because at that level financially there is gain to being a host and having those people come in, and it's good for the city and all that. But the problem is that you kind of, rob Peter to pay Paul to get a team that hosts. You might say, as someone who's leading a conference, well, you can have another team in as long as we get this team to host. Well, all of a sudden, a team that maybe deserves it from a mid-major conference and has done really well but fell short in their conference tournament because they've got 3 or 4 teams in their conference that should be there, only have 2. One of them hosts, and the other 2 get left off. So somebody else from the SEC or the ACC or the Big Ten that maybe didn't put up the same numbers, but they'll sit there and say, oh, but they played against tougher competition, gets in. I know that at the D3 and the D2 level, they have gone to an RPI ranking type system where, how you do against, in region teams, in conference teams, all those, the strength of schedule, it gets factored in. There's an equation. You get a ranking. If the teams ahead of you win their conference championship, you move up a spot.
Right.
If you get in, you get in.
Yeah.
And I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see that at the Division I level. I just think they can't do this whole, under the table backroom conversation stuff anymore.
It doesn't. It ends up making no sense at the end. Like, have this team get in and have that team in. I'm done with the conference tournaments in a sense, where especially with in the WAC, watching it for so many years since Jake and I started watching Grand Canyon, is the fact that you're the best team. You win your season. You get to tournament. You have a couple bad days. Your season's done. But the 8th place team that gets in as the 8 seed can win the tournament and go to a regional. That never made any sense to me. Like, why are we putting so much emphasis on 5 days compared to 3.5 months? It doesn't make any 4 months of a season, and I think that's completely flawed because we saw a New Mexico State team. I think it was New Mexico State that was Jacob's junior year. We were 1-2 in the tournament and we were done but we won the league and we're done. Yeah. Like, that's it. It's over. You're like, hold on. Like, we just spent an entire season to win a championship. Because
body of work goes out the window.
It's dumb. It's like, all right, I would say, all right, the winner of the league is out of the tournament, and just make the tournament like just a random tournament that let the seniors play out, let everybody in the conference, you're in the tournament. The one team that won the league, you're in the regional. You're already gone. You're gone. And that's for those mid majors. Not you're not talking about the Power Fives. It's going to have multiple teams in a regional.
Oh, and those Power Fives don't care. Those Power Fives don't care about their conference tournament anymore.
No doubt.
By the way.
No. I'd rather rest my guys I'm resting my big arms for trying to make a World Series run. But like, if you're a mid-major and you're in a conference that gets one team, take that. You win the league, you're in. Play a tournament, enjoy your baseball. Let those guys play more baseball. Let them finish out their senior year, whatever. But that one team gets a week off and they get to go to a regional.
I have a question for you, and this might be a slight tangent. So Ryan, I apologize. But you know how this works behind closed doors for college teams. You know the entire fall, the winter, you have your team meetings, you set your goals, and you make sure the entire team's pulling on the rope in the same direction. And let's face it, there are some teams who get in that room and they say, we want to win a College World Series. There's some teams that say we want to make our conference tournament.
Right.
Some want to find something somewhere in between. I am very curious, as a professional baseball player at the major league level, when you are a team who, whether it be the Pirates would be a good example this year, the White Sox would be a good example of this, versus the Dodgers, everyone shows up to the Dodgers camp and says, we're winning a World Series this year.
Yeah.
Is everybody showing up to the Pirates and the White Sox camp saying, we're winning a World Series this year?
No. And that's okay. Like, nothing wrong with that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing. You go in to as a group and as individuals to have the best possible year that is, and it's not like you're saying we're not going to win a World Series, but you're not. Right. It's not like that. And the problem is with your Dodgers, your Yankees, your Boston. If you don't win a World Series, that's like you failed.
That's failure. Yeah.
If I spent 9 years in Pittsburgh and we went over 500 one time, which we didn't, but that would have been a win. Like, we had a winning season, because you have to understand who you are. And the bottom line is, I always talked about our Pittsburgh team, and people didn't understand and realize, like, oh, you guys were terrible. I'm like, are you not remembering the fact that from 2001 to 2010, the National League Central was by far the best division in baseball? Like the teams that we had to deal with. By the way, we had the Houston Astros, like had to deal with Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit, Roy Oswalt, and then we would go to Chicago and get Zambrano, Mark Pryor, Kerry Wood, and oh, by the way, their 5 was Maddox. And then we go to a young core that we're talking about the young core of the A's. What about the young core of the Milwaukee Brewers that was coming through with Prince and Ricky
and Ryan Braun,
and Ryan Braun,
Ryan Braun,
and let's just go with the Reds and what they had with their pitching staff, and you're just like we couldn't compete. It wasn't even our fault. Like we were good baseball players, but I'm like we were in by far the hardest division in baseball because back then it was like okay, the West was won by the Dodgers, everybody else is kind of like eh. In the East, it was the Mets. Everybody else was like, eh, like whatever. But like the division that we had to play.
And back then you were playing. Like 70 games against those teams alone.
Yeah, because it was straight up interleague play that changed every year, different division every year, right. Home and away, and you were playing. So I looked at it as like we understood who we were, but like our whole goal was to go out there and win as many games as possible, and honestly too, it's not selfish to want to go out there and try to cement your career on how you play too. So like it's a job. So you're trying to keep your job and at the same time trying to win games. So did I ever go in like, all right, this is the year we're going to win a World Series? Like there's realistic goals that you have to set for yourself, but it was never, we're not going to, so it's not a negative, but you look at a roster and be like, you know what? We want to compete. We want to be able to show up and be able to compete against the best teams in our division, which was tough, and like come away with if you took 2 out of 3 from St. Louis, like that's nice.
Yeah,
that's a tough
at that point in time.
So, but like I said, I don't think it's a negative thing in understanding who you are, but like there's going to be teams that know, and honestly, the ownership knows, the front office knows, the coach, the manager knows, the coaching staff knows who they are. And what they're, what's realistic and what's not, So I think
fans lose their mind at the end of a season when the team wins a playoff series or gets to the postseason, and the Scott Harris is a great example. Did this with the Tigers this year. They come away from how their postseason ended, which was one of the greatest postseason games we've ever gotten against the Mariners, and comes out 2 days later and does his press conference, and everybody's annoyed that he isn't satisfied with the way the season ended, but like he took away a ton of positives and was like,
absolutely,
guys, we have a really young team.
Yeah, we
just we salvaged a good postseason out of a really bad September.
Yeah,
and I think it's hard. I'm sure you do this a little bit more now, but separating the fan from reality.
Yeah,
because I'm sure you as a player, it was like, you want to win because you want to win. But you also know that a city like Pittsburgh deserves, good sports and wants to see their team win. And what it was like to be in a state of winning at some point when people did show up and all that stuff. And you yearn for that just as much as they do. But I think there's a lack of realism from fans probably that makes it hard.
Well, I think that, especially too when you're dealing with fans, especially if you're dealing with diehard fans that have been – generational fans from their parents, and obviously in Pittsburgh when they ran the 70s, they ran the 70s,
right.
And in the early 80s with Jim Leland and Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla and all those guys, like they were fantastic then too because they were rolling through. They were in the East at the time and they were killing it. So you have these generational fans that are just upset. So you're trying to like bring that back, and fortunately enough, like after I left, they were in the playoffs. I think in 2012, 2013, 14. I think they went 3 years in a row as the wild card. Because they did almost exactly what the A's are doing. They did it through the draft. You draft a Neil Walker, you draft a Neil McCutchen, you draft a Pedro Alvarez, you draft Cole, right-hand pitcher. Like they built that and then added some pieces. So that was their formula. But the problem is they got to hit in those drafts. Those drafts have to hit for that all to come into play. So as much as we wanted to, because the Penguins were always killing it and the Steelers were always killing it, we were like that third wheel that dang Pirates! Like we just had the Pirates, the greatest sports city in the world.
I love how much you know Pirates history.
Yeah,
I love how much you know Pirates history from even like years you weren't playing there. Like how much you know what was going on before you got. I mean, I think there's a lot of big leaguers that played for teams and like what they know of that team is like the years they were there and what happened. And even that's probably either inflated or deflated to some. But I feel like you have a really good understanding of the history.
Yeah, it's the town too. Like
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's so historic, and there's been so many unbelievable sports memories in Pittsburgh from all the different sports. You know, and we've had iconic. You know, you got Roberto Clemente, you got Willie Stargell, you got Terry Bradshaw. You have all these iconic figures in that, and I had to learn all that. I was a young kid from California. I had no idea what Pittsburgh was about. I'm like, who's Bill Mazeroski? Like, who's that? Who's that? And they're like, oh, he just hit the game with 7 home run against the Yankees. I'm like, oh, probably should know that because I'm literally going to take ground balls with him later today. I'm like, that's probably a good thing to figure out. He's a Hall of Famer too. Oh yeah, whoops. You know, so it took me a while, but I loved living there.
Free baseball reference too.
Absolutely, like he's yeah. So yeah, it's I wish it was like that. I wish it was more like that, where you like have that thought process like this is the year we're going to win the World Series. But it's tough. Every organization's in a different spot when they go into spring training. Yeah, it's just different. You know, it's not bad. Sure. Just like let's give it a run. Let's give it a whirl. Why not believe in it?
I think one of the things that you did a good job of, though, and as we try to relate this always back to what is day-to-day life for most people, which unfortunately is for us is not on a baseball field because we've already had that discussion. That's where I wish it was for me. But it's also setting realistic goals from an overall perspective and recognizing that the small goals eventually lead you to the bigger goals. But you can only control so much in your situation. So it's how do you make the most of that on a regular basis to be as successful as you can? And that doesn't change in sports. It's still your job. It's still what you're paid to do. Yeah. And for a group of people to succeed at the level that they want to succeed, you have to have a realistic goal in mind. Yeah. And it's refreshing to hear because I think everybody can relate to that. Yeah. As you join the workforce, no matter who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, especially for us too, we were a young team. We couldn't get any free agents to come to PNC Park, just because we weren't going to win. We would bring guys up that probably weren't ready to be in the big leagues, but they were a cheaper option. But I always said my time in Pittsburgh, I love my teammates, but we all worked our butts off. We did. We didn't have the talent enough to match the other team's talent. I mean, we're going against Hall of Famers every day, and but it's about showing up to the yard with energy, with a positive energy, and going out there and playing the game that you love and taking the business side out. And the business side of baseball doesn't really happen until you stop playing baseball. When the off season starts, that's when the business starts. So a lot of it's just like, hey, let's just get up there and play and like do the best we can. Like that's all you can do is show up every day with that. And it's not every day. Some days you're in a slump and you show up and you're just, like this sucks. How am I going to get out of it? And it's just. There's a lot of weight on your shoulders to go out and be a Major League Baseball player, to go out there and try to be great every day against the best players in the world. But we had a lot of guys in Pittsburgh that showed up and had great attitudes, and we got after it. We played really hard. At the end of the day, we just weren't talented enough.
You overlapped 1 year with Neil Walker? Is that a correct statement?
No, actually, we didn't overlap. No. So he came up after I got traded. But But Neil Walker has a special place in our heart because Jacob caught his very first fish at Neil Walker's house. So,
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, because he was in.
You have a much better Neil Walker story than me, then.
Yeah, he was in camp as a first round pick. Pittsburgh kid, got drafted as a switch hitting catcher. Yeah. So he was, I think, maybe. I'm gonna say it had to be maybe he was our pick in maybe 03, 04. Maybe he was our first round pick somewhere in there. Correct. So, first rounders always came to big league camp and, How
about 2004, Jack? Nice job.
Nice. Sweet. Wow. So, because I'm going by Jacob's age, and I think because I thought he was around 2 years old when we did this. And Neil had bought a place in Bradenton, Florida with his first round money. And, that's where he was going to, be, he had a place in spring training. And then we went over there after I really got to know him, loved the kid, just – and then we went to lunch, and then we went by his place, and his place was off like this little water, had a little dock, and he took Jacob out there with his fishing pole, and that's where Jacob caught his first pitch, fish. So it was really cool. And then from then on, him and Jake were like Neil Walker became his favorite player. So like everywhere we have I think Jacob has a Neil Walker jersey from every single team he played for, which is really cool. So we have the Pirates jersey, we have the Brewers jersey, we have the Yankees jersey. There might be one more in there maybe, but he's got
hopefully a Yankees jersey without a last name on the back.
It doesn't have a last name.
A true Yankees jersey.
What was really cool is because Neil would always get him a jersey.
That's awesome.
He actually has Jacob's very first autographed jersey ever. Jacob signed his high school senior jersey. He sent to Neil as a thank you for always giving him jerseys. So Neil actually has Thousand Oaks Lancer high school senior Wilson number 2 on it. Actually, he was Wilson 22. He was number 22. Because I was number 2 and my numbers retired, so he chose 22 because he was going to be twice as good as me. I
was gonna say you didn't give him permission.
22. So, but yeah, because it was really cool. So he sent that back. So it was a cool full circle moment. And actually, on draft day, when the Pirates were, because he was on TV when the Pirates were doing the preview of the draft, Neil was actually wearing that high school jersey of Jacobs, talking about him in the draft. So it was pretty cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, my Neil Walker story is not nearly as cool as that. So
I was gonna say you should have started.
Yeah. I'm happy to give it anyways. No, I had an opportunity. It was would have probably been somewhere between 2011 and 2013. I had an opportunity for a multitude of reasons to be my brother, my dad, and I actually in the Pirates dugout.
Oh, wow,
and
nice.
Neil was already playing, already up. And here's me as a 17, 18-year-old kid, and Neil's doing ladder drills on the field. By the way, just having a ball.
Yeah.
The dude is just a ball of energy.
Yes.
This guy. And I said something to him about it, and he looked at me. He's like, yeah, you think you can do it? And then I walked up there, so I got to sit around and do ladder drills with Neil Walker for about 5 to 10 minutes. He sat around, talked to my little brother and I. And you want to talk about a great steward of the game for young people. It's always nice to see that. And it's one of the things that stuck with me as I've loved baseball throughout time. I appreciate when it's taken in that type of consideration. And he just saw 2 kids who happen to be in the dugout, and he's like, well, I'm doing ladder drills. May as well include him in it.
That's Neil, man. Neil's the best.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's the best.
Now I wish I had a Neil Walker story.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, sorry. I had to get something on you.
One day.
I didn't play Torrey Pines today, so, I had to have a Neil Walker story.
Nice.
I want to hit one more topic before we give you your question here. And I think it's one that's really interesting just because of the time period we're in. As fans of the game, Flax and I have never gotten ready for a major league season. We've never been to spring training. You get to interact with so many people, or so it seems from the outside looking in, when you go into a spring training. Mm-hmm. You have always, in my opinion, from what I've seen, it's obvious that you've been a leader on teams. When you are a veteran player and you're the type of guy who's calling pitches from shortstop, and you've got all of these young kids coming in to the start of spring training, what type of advice are you giving these guys who are getting to their first spring training?
I think for the most part, it was more just having them see your work ethic. When you're out there doing, because I'm a big worker. I'm like, let's get up early, let's go do ground balls, let's work today and get better. I've always been like that. So I think it's just showing them, making sure that I was beating those young guys to the field, where, where they're showing up. It was the whole Michael Jordan thing with Team USA, where it's the guys are getting up at 7 a.m. and he's already done with his 2-hour workout. Not to that extent, but a young player, you can say as much as you want to a young player, especially maybe a higher draft pick or somebody who's just maybe a prospect and they're kind of like, I'm a guy. So there's a lot more, by your actions, I think speak a lot louder than words in those moments where you're just they're looking at a guy that might be established, that, like you said, a veteran, been there, done that, and now you're showing them why you've been there and done that. What goes into being that guy. And I think that's so beneficial for them to see, be like, this guy's got 7-8 years, he's got this, he's done that, whatever it is, and he's out there working harder than me, so I think that was always my biggest thing was if those guys are paying attention, they're going to see somebody who's never really satisfied with where they're at. They're going to just keep working and keep getting after it, especially in a spring training setting where I have the extra energy. I'm not worried about playing 9 innings today. I have the ability to go out and spend some energy doing a lot of early work and stuff like that, knowing that maybe I have the day off or I have, maybe I'm 2 at-bats because it's in the beginning of spring training, so I can get more work done. A lot more physical stuff done than I can do during the season.
Connor Griffin is a good example of this, is a very easy example of this. Guys are coming into spring training with the notion that they are working to try and earn the starting spot on opening day. Justin Crawford's another example of that, for the Phillies. When a guy shows up like that, is it kind of you want them to have that attitude, but at the same time, it's like, listen, if you just go about your business and you just work as if that's been your spot for the last 10 years, and not in like a I'm the guy type of way, but in like this is how I got here.
Right.
Like you're saying, show up, get my work done, I do the right thing, I go the extra mile because that's who I am.
Right.
I would feel like the advice maybe or the conversation would be like, hey man, just listen. I know you want to be the starting shortstop, next season, but the reason you're as good as you are right now is because you do the right things already.
Yeah.
Just show up and keep doing the right things.
Absolutely.
Just keep moving in that right direction. It doesn't have to be a big leap in spring training.
No.
It just has to be the right steps one at a time.
And like you nailed it on the head. If that situation, if you're that young and you're in that spot, it's because you work your butt off. You don't just sit on your talent. If you're
Right.
a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid and you're going to spring training with a chance to win a job, there's reason why you're there is because you aren't complacent. You don't care about your prospect ranking.
Right.
And that's why you're there. That's why you've gotten to that peak, and that usually doesn't change. I saw that with a young Andrew McCutcheon. Guy was a worker. The guy was gonna be great because he didn't care that he was a first-round pick. He didn't care that he was our top prospect, whatever. He was just going to go out and continue to get better, and that was his goal. There was never a cockiness. There was never because we had first rounders come in and be like, I was a first round pick, I got this much money, and then I never saw them again. They're gone.
Yeah, right.
They were satisfied with where they were at. So that conversation is absolutely where it's like, it's almost like you feel like if I was with Connor right now, I don't think I'd have to say a thing because the way he looks, the way he goes about his business, his body, the way he does, that guy is a worker. And I had him in 18. I had him in 18U. He looked like that when he was 18. The guy's an absolute monster. He was an outfielder for us. He didn't even play infield.
I think I think from what I've seen, it seems like his dad's also got a good head on his shoulders, kind of guiding him. Like we've seen it with other players, right? Without saying names, there are parents who stay heavily involved and maybe not always for the better, but it seems like his dad, is like kind of pushing that aspect of like, just keep working hard. Like, let's sit down and figure out what maybe is going wrong, what's going right. Like, let's just keep pushing that way.
No doubt.
And I think that's also helpful too. You need people in your corner that kind of keep you grounded.
Well, I think too,
that way.
Yeah, I think when you find a kid that works hard, there's definitely going to be the apple doesn't fall far from the tree type of work ethic. Yeah. Because if somebody's working that hard, there's going to be somebody telling them like, hey, I always tell guys like, beat yourself out from the day before. That's the guy you got to focus on. Like, that's the guy you got to beat out, not anybody else. Like, because you can't control what they do. You can only wake up and control what you do. And if your focus is to look in the mirror and be like, tomorrow I'm beating you today. Tomorrow I'm beating you. And that's consistent, and that's what makes those guys great. And I think that's where he's getting him from. Another guy that you're going to see this year very much is Kevin McGonigal. He's another guy that I think the Detroit Tigers, who is probably the most polished hitter I ever saw at 17 years old when he was a junior on Team USA. He's the same type of way. He's like, that guy does not care what prospect he is, how much he made in the draft. The guy just cares about being the best hitter he can possibly be. And that dude is, so since we were going to be saying what we thought was going to happen in 26, your American League Rookie of the Year is Kevin McGonigal. Just a heads up.
That was a choice, just so you know, by somebody on the pod.
Absolutely.
Don't you worry. That did happen.
I believe who he is, his swing, his approach, his intelligence, he's going to be really, really, really good.
Yeah, I put something out on Twitter, I think either this morning or the day before, about him, and I was kind of breaking down his swing and going through it, and it's so transferable to every level. It's why he's getting better every level he goes up. Like his ability to see the ball, his timing, his timing mechanisms, and it's clear like that stuff doesn't happen just by getting in the box. Like he's doing it in the on-deck circle. He's doing it in the dugout. Right. He has a plan. And the way he controls the barrel is next level. And it comes with power. He's not a huge guy, but the whip that he creates with that barrel is crazy.
He's so good. I hope the Pirates take their time. I really do. We saw this happen in Jackson Holiday, where it's just like he has this unbelievable run. Let's get him up there, super young. And then there's this, because at this point, when has Connor Griffin ever struggled on a baseball field? Hasn't happened yet.
Said the same thing about
maybe,
Dylan Cruz.
but maybe
Dylan
he's
Cruz
one
is
of
that
the
same guy.
maybe he's one of those guys that's just not going to happen to. Like he's just that good,
Never does,
and
yeah.
that would be amazing. But it's like, okay, I definitely wouldn't mind him having a really good spring training, throwing him in AAA like we did with Nick Kurtz, throwing him in AAA, and say, okay, let's make sure that spring training wasn't just a thing. And then if he kills it, you throw him right back up a month later. That's what happened with Nick Kurtz. I walked away from watching almost every single spring training game with the A's. I walked away and told Jacob, that guy is a major league hitter. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't check swing. He hits everything up the middle and the other way. He doesn't need to pull for power. I'm like, that guy knows what he is doing, and he's going to accidentally hit 30 homers. I'm like, just the way, just how much power he has. Accidentally. Yeah. And they said even though he was probably the best hitter in spring, we're going to send you to AAA. And then he went absolute berserk, and they brought him up and he did what he did. So he had a chance they gave him that chance to show them that he's not ready. And he said, "Nah, I am. I'm good to go." And if we do that with Connor, give him a chance to go down there and say, "Okay, spring training's cool. We don't like spring training all-stars because everybody has them. Those guys that just kill it in spring training, and what happened?
Oh, yeah.
It happens.
Absolutely.
It happens. Give him a chance to go down and say, here's AAA, and if you kill it, you're back. You're our guy. And then you don't have there's nothing to worry about. Like, he proved that he should be here because he got big league time in spring training. We sent him to AAA. He showed that's not hard enough for him. He needs to go to the big leagues, and then we take care of him. Rather than just right out of spring training, because they're going to have a lot of pressure to put the big kid with the big boy with Skeens. And now you have the two figures of Pittsburgh together. Yeah, and it's like you can just take your time. It's okay.
To the A's credit, or maybe to the Pirates' future credit, the A's had the opportunity to still compete and not have Nick Kurtz in their lineup, right? Soderstrom was a very good first baseman, strong offensively. You had enough, seasoned offensive players to fill the gap in left field.
Right.
There was I don't know that the Pirates necessarily have the roster construction to do that if they want to compete in the Paul Skeens window.
Right.
But I don't disagree with what I would do with the player individually. Right. But I think just roster construction-wise, I don't know they've given themselves that opportunity nearly to the same extent.
I mean, it's for me. It's like, okay, it's 1 month, like it may be 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 weeks for Kurtz. I mean, it was so fast, and he was back, and he was awesome. And I think you can. There's just the pressure. I mean, the Pirates have. Jacob told me the Pirates are the best pitchers he faced the entire year, from top to bottom. This
and it's getting better.
And he didn't even see Skeens.
Jared Jones is coming back.
Yeah, and Jonesy's coming back. He didn't even see Skeens. That was without Skeens. He didn't pitch that series. He's like, every arm was absolute electricity. So, but to your point of what you're saying, is they might need him to be that offensive guy. But, like, even then, what do you do with a 19-year-old kid? Where do you put him in a lineup? Like, to where you're protecting him from seeing because the pitching you see in spring training is not the pitching you see in April. It's just not.
Nope.
So it's like, okay, do you throw him in the 7? Do you throw him right in the 1 or the 2? And just say, here you go, kid, go get him. It's just
get as many at-bats as you can.
I would love to be in their position. You got the number 1 prospect. You got the number 1 pitcher in baseball. There's a future there. And I would not want to be in their position with the number 1 prospect. And maybe the pressures of having to have this guy here because it's going to make fans really happy. And they're going to come and be really excited to have that kid, which they should because he's an amazing human being. And not only as a player, but off the field as well. So.
It's the pressure and privilege of expectation.
No doubt.
There's no other way to put it, right? And again, we're talking about 2 teams in the A's and Pirates who have set themselves up that way, which is not a bad thing, right? And now it's going to be who's going to step up to the plate and how are things operated from an overall perspective. I mean, really excited. We got to see Skeens in Colorado, still plays, by the way, just in case anybody was curious. I mean,
still does just fine.
Yeah.
Turns out altitude doesn't affect Paul Skeens, but who was surprised to hear that?
No.
All right, Jack. My question for you. Flax doesn't know this question yet. So if I ruin this for everybody, I've ruined it for everybody. So this time it's not Flax's and my fault. It's just my fault.
Okay.
So we're going to you know Pittsburgh baseball history pretty well, which is solid, but I want to know how much you know about your former teammates.
Oh crap! Really?
In AAA. All right, in AAA. Yeah, this is a good
In
one.
AAA.
In AAA, you played with a guy who played 12 big league seasons, won 1 World Series, but also, ready? But also played 4 seasons in the NPB. Who is this player?
Wait, in AAA.
In AAA.
When I was in Nashville,
you played-
Tennessee.
Yes.
I played 12 years in the big league.
And that person ended up
Yeah,
playing 12
if
years.
I pick a big league teammate, I feel like you're going to nail it. You're a smart dude.
Well, you said AAA, so I haven't even like.
I did. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes. Confirming.
Brain
AAA.
needs to take the leap.
You're good. AAA. The guy played 12 big league seasons. He won a World Series. And he played 4 seasons in the NPB as he had a hiatus from big league baseball.
What the heck? The MPB is definitely throwing me off. But even with between AAA and the big leagues, having a guy that played.
This could also be on me. I didn't look about how much time you spent in AAA. So if it was like 5 days, I'm the worst.
No, it was like a month. It was a month, and I'm trying to think.
Man, I still didn't give you
still
much
not a lot
time
of
then.
time.
Hold on. Oh man, I ruined this. You only. Hold on. Let's do something else. How many plate appearances did you have at AAA?
100.
That's crazy.
I think I was like
That's
36 for 100, and they brought me back up. They're like, "All right, you can come back."
That's a nice flex.
Well, I mean,
Prior
I
to
was hitting
being
180
a full timer in Pittsburgh,
I was hitting.
you had 115 plate appearances.
Well, I did, yeah, because I had to go down to rehab because my hammies suck. Gosh, dang, 12 years in the big leagues and played and a World Series
right.
and played in Japan. Is he a position player?
Yes, he's an arm.
It's not Jason Smith.
Oh, my brain wasn't even going
No.
towards the arm. Wow.
It's an arm.
Oh my god.
Ah, and he's a World Series champ. Oh, you got me. That's good. I don't know.
Ryan Vogelsong.
Oh my gosh, I knew that. Dang it!
Wow.
Son of a gun.
Ryan Vogelsong.
I didn't even think
Yep.
of Vogie because he had this, like, remember, he went to the Giants and, like, completely revived his career. With us, he was pretty good. Great dude. And got a cutter. And then, like, made the All-Star team in San Fran. I didn't know he went to Japan, though. Cool.
So
Well, I
that
did know he
was
went to
was
Japan.
part of
Gosh, I'm so mad at myself. Thanks for that, guys.
that was part of him making his way back.
That's right. He went to
stop
Japan
in
and then came back to San Francisco.
So
That's
you
a
know what
good
they say?
question. That was solid.
They do
That was
say
solid.
they do say third time's the charm. So,
I will say
next
this,
time-
though. I spent 10 years with the Pirates, or 9 seasons with the Pirates, and probably had 214 different teammates. So it's not exactly my
That's
fault.
true.
I had 28 different double play partners in 9 years.
Well, I was. Oh my god.
Jose Bautista. Jose Bautista was one of those guys.
That?
Jose Bautista
would
was
say-
one of my double play
yeah,
partners. He played
absolutely
second base
he
a couple
was.
times.
That's crazy.
What?
I counted every guy that I actually turned Jeff Rebele. I mean, we'll bring him out. I got plenty of Pokey Reese,
That's
obviously,
crazy.
Jose Castillo, Freddie Sanchez. But, dude, we get Bobby Hill. We'll drop that one in there. Delman Young. Jose Bautista played second base for us
Delman
before he went to
Young.
Toronto. He was playing third.
Awesome.
He was playing third. We got LaRoche's brother. So we have Andy and Adam. Andy was playing third, and Bautista went to second for a couple times.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Telling you. So technically, it's not terrible that I missed something on one of my 274 teammates, or whatever I said.
The fact that you know how many double play partners, that's
it was
awesome,
so crazy.
dude.
The fact that I was like, hold on, like I gotta start.
That's what I was gonna say. You probably got to like 8 or 9, and you were like,
You
this
had
is-
Abraham
this number's
Nunez, Pat Mears. Like the list is crazy. Like it's a lot of guys, a lot of turnover
nuts.
with guys. And it just had to be one double play that we turned. Like that was the qualifying
that's
factor.
fair.
So for maybe for some extra content in a crossover with Jack Wilson Baseball and Stitch, we'll do a thread on all the guys Jack Wilson had as a double play.
Double
partner.
play partner. There's a lot. They were all awesome, though. I love them. They were great.
At that rate, it might have to be a 2-part thread on Twitter. 28 is a lot. I don't
That's
know
a
I get that
lot.
many characters.
28. Telling you.
Oh my god.
Crazy.
Well, Jack, You're always the man. We appreciate having you on the podcast. Regardless of what's going on, we're always happy to have you on if you've got baseball thoughts that you want to share.
Absolutely.
But first and
Anytime.
foremost, once again, congratulations to your son,
Thank you.
your family from an overall perspective. It's been a great year for the Wilson family, and baseball's back. College baseball, professional baseball. So I think we're all excited, but thank you so much again for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Anytime, fellas.
All right. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Jack, thank you so much for coming on the pod again. We are excited to have you back at some point in time in the near future. Flax, no additional topic this week. Any final thoughts for you before we let them go?
Oh, no final thoughts. Just college baseball is in full swing. I believe Denison's season starts this coming weekend, so you will definitely be getting updates on that as it progresses. But otherwise, hope everybody enjoys the baseball because it is beginning.
College baseball, Major League spring training, we're back. We're back. So, agreed with Flax. Guys, as always, like, follow, and subscribe on all of our socials, X, Instagram, and TikTok. We have also been starting to post shorts on YouTube as well. Make sure to subscribe there and say what's up. As always, share the pod with your friends, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, all up every single Tuesday. But past that, as always, thanks for listening and have a great